Hey, welcome everyone. Welcome to our virtual lunch seminar today. We are really excited to have Lindsay Amico speak to our group. Lindsay is a member of BNSME. She is also the founder of Perfect Mind LLC, which is a local Buffalo business. She's a certified mindset coach and a motivational speaker. And today she's really going to talk about helpful tactics and strategies for us to sort of reset in 2022. Many of us face a lack of motivation or focus from time to time. Sometimes we beat ourselves up. We think we're just being lazy or we're procrastinating and we don't really know why. So she's really going to uncover sort of why that's happening and what we can do about it. So we're really excited to have Lindsay here. So let's give her a nice warm welcome.
Thank you. Yes, this is great. I love the turnout. I wish that this wasn't such an issue. Like, it's great to have this turnout, but also wish that it wasn't happening, but it makes perfect sense. So thank you for being here today. I'm going to try to keep this to about 45 minutes, and then maybe we can just open up and discuss further. I always say share in the chat along the way, because that way I can be more interactive. We're all zoomed out at this point. Let's just face it. It is what it is, but I'm also really thankful that we have the technology to be able to connect in this way. And I hope you at least get a tip or two from this presentation to be able to implement into your day-to-day life. I always say, take what serves you and leave the rest. There's going to be a ton of information in here, but if you're already overwhelmed or avoiding, don't try to implement everything at once. So, okay, great. I'm going to open up the chat. Perfect. Okay, so let's get started. So really simple. Where are we now? Why do we procrastinate in the first place? And then tips and tricks to stop. Very, very simple. And for anyone that doesn't know me, my name is Lindsay Amico. I'm the founder and mindset coach of Picture Perfect Mind. I help folks to bring awareness to how we feel right now, release that frantic and anxious energy, and then navigate our inner critic, that internal dialogue, to tap us into our power, who we've always been and who we always will be. And I've worked with a variety of organizations in Western New York and beyond. So if this feels not only in alignment with you or your organization, please feel free to reach out. I'll have my contact info at the end, but I'd love to help. So I always start my presentations like this, but how do you feel and how do you want to feel leaving? So the reason why we're here, the reason why we do anything, is because of how we think it's going to make us feel. So I hope you're feeling happy today, but maybe you're bored, maybe you're tired, maybe you're stressed. How do you feel and how do you want to feel? Set the intention to feel excited, calm, grateful, whatever it is. And of course, feel free to share in the chat if that feels good. And we can use our collective energy to shift into this as we enter into the weekend and beyond. Optimistic. Love it. So I'm going to dive us into a very short exercise right now, but I'd like you to focus on just one area you're procrastinating in. And there's probably a couple, or maybe it feels like so many, but what is one area that you can really focus on right now? You can share if you'd like, or just keep it to yourself, but I want you to think of the one area that's just standing out to you. It could be the laundry, it could be something around the house, it could be the conversation you're avoiding having because you're not sure how that person's going to respond. It could be something around your health goals. For me, going into my business full time for a long time, it was just a lot of avoidance and procrastination because I didn't really have the confidence yet. I didn't really know exactly what I was doing. So there were so many things I was avoiding. So just think of one for today. What's the most significant one? If you could hit an easy button and it would be done, what would that be?
So I'll share, Lindsay.
Oh yeah.
Is this a time to share or should I be quiet?
Oh, you totally can. Go for it.
So we talked about this before because I've had Lindsay's presented to another one of my groups, which I'm really grateful for. I am definitely procrastinating on having a difficult conversation.
Yeah.
So by nature, I don't like conflict. I don't like just to disappoint people. I have a whole lot to unpack there, but I am definitely putting off having sort of a crucial conversation that has to be had. And I keep stalling and like waiting for the perfect time. And I just need to do it. So
Sure.
that's my issue.
Can anyone relate to that? I can't. I'm also going through a
So
similar.
if you want to have it for me, that would be awesome.
I'm going through a similar thing right now, honestly. I'm not gonna lie. And I'll own that. The reason why I teach on these topics is because I've been through them. I go through them on a daily basis, and I'm kind of obsessed with learning how do I navigate this to make my life easier. Anyone else care to share something you're procrastinating on? Feel free to type in the chat too. Taxes. I was going to mention that as an example. Yes, taxes. This is the time of year that you see all the advertisements. Jen, were you going to say something?
I said you have time for that.
Taxes. But basically, things that make us feel, whether it's uncomfortable or we just don't like it, maybe we don't feel like we're good at it, maybe we're not sure how it's going to turn out, right? Okay, so keep thinking of this. Now I just want you to settle in and ask yourself these things. Why are you potentially avoiding this? How does it make you feel? Just ask yourself the question, maybe make a note of it. Bring in some curiosity here. What thoughts are coming up around this? Like I said, I'm not really good at it. What if this person doesn't react well? Maybe it's simply something around the house, like you're avoiding doing the dishes and you're just like, I just do not want to do that. Scared. Yep. Could be a big thing and could be a small thing. Are these thoughts true? And what evidence do I have for them? So for example, let's take health. So often we get stuck in, well, I've tried this before. It hasn't worked. It has to be perfect. This is the kind of person I am. I start things, I stop things. I start things, I stop things. But let's do our best here. As we bring awareness to that, is it possible to shift and find evidence for the contrary? So we're going to talk about this, how the brain will find a lot of evidence for the problems and the things we're currently facing, but is it possible to find evidence for the contrary? And what are we actually accomplishing on a day-to-day basis? Fear of failure. Yep. That's a huge one. Can anyone else relate to that? I think that is very programmed into us. I want you to ask yourself too, how are you feeling physically, mentally, and emotionally today? Because depending on the day, that might not be the day to tackle this task. If you're feeling physically depleted, if you haven't gotten enough sleep, if you find your thoughts are all fuzzy, if you just are emotionally drained, that might not be the time to take this on. It might be the time to find some compassion and self-care. And I want you to allow for the possibility that avoidance is a protection mechanism. So it doesn't feel like you're doing a good thing, but actually it's how you're coping with the situation. And it is helping you on some level. Truly, it is giving you, whether that's the hit of dopamine, it's helping you emotionally in some way to avoid this, whether it's big or small. Does it feel better to procrastinate in the moment, even if there's emotions associated with it? Oh, like, oh, I'm failing, or oh, I can't believe I'm doing this. Yes, it does feel better. And it's formed a habit, which is why we're doing it over and over again. And personally, I feel like no matter how good you get at recognizing this within yourself, you're still going to have things that you're procrastinating on. You're going to have those bursts of feeling like you're doing great, feeling like you're getting so much done. And then you're still going to notice, wow, I'm actually hardcore avoiding this. And the key here is awareness. The key here is just saying, wow, I have all these tools. I'm doing great in these ways, but wow, I'm still procrastinating here. And just being there, honestly, being there for yourself is key here. So feel free to share in the chat as I'm going through this. Is there anything you discovered in asking yourself these questions? Was there kind of a light bulb moment where all of a sudden you were like, whoa, I have been avoiding this thing because it's just emotionally overwhelming. I feel so much more comfortable doing these other things. Is there anything that came up for you? And we are also going to be able to share at the end, like I said, so. And if you don't feel like sharing to everyone, remember there's a function for you to just send it to the host, I believe, or to ask a question in Zoom. And so I will not say your name.
I think for me, Lindsay, when I have a lot of competing priorities, sometimes I avoid or I procrastinate because it's like, I don't even know where to start.
Sure.
And like, they're all important, but some are more important than others. So it's sort of like, oh, I don't have time today to even think about that big project. I just gotta, it's easier to do the easy stuff, right? And
Yes,
to chip away at that big thing that you need to do.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep.
Lindsay, that's me too. I always find that I've got a million priorities and then I get overwhelmed by it all.
Sure.
And I find that if I sort of have to divorce myself from it all and then sort of think, okay, just take one thing at a time and just complete it, right? And then, sort of whittle away at it, I guess. That's what works for me, but I do get anxious about it.
Absolutely, because our society is continually asking more of us. Like, I don't care if you're single, I don't care if you have a family and you have a marriage. I don't care what phase of your life you're in or who you are. You have things that are pulling at you. And it's this overwhelm. So I'm going to talk about why is overwhelm a thing and what is our brain doing during that situation. But it's basically saying everything is the most important right now, and I don't have enough time to do any of it. So I'm actually going to not do any of it. Even if you start whittling away, I would say that's the best tactic. For me, overthinking, and I'm a chronic overthinker, does not lead to action. It leads to me sitting on the couch being like,
I thought it did.
but starting to recognize, wow, I really get in these thought cycles and I overthink things versus, and I'm going to show actually a very short video from Mel Robbins, who's a great mindset coach. She talks about procrastination, but she's going to talk about a very short, simple technique on how to get you into action. Because in my opinion, action creates more action. So even if it's a 5-minute thing that's going to get you moving, that's the best way to start. So you're on the right track, whittling away at it. Hard to prioritize what to get done first. Absolutely. Overcommitting if you don't know when to say no. Overthinking, brain freeze, analysis paralysis. Yep, we're going to talk about all of this. Thank you all for sharing. So basically, we all procrastinate. We're just not all chronic procrastinators, but every single person procrastinates, and about 20% of us would be considered chronic procrastinators by Joseph Ferrari, who's kind of the expert in this realm. Everyone procrastinates. Not everyone is a procrastinator. So that's very interesting. We might procrastinate on some things, and some people are like, you don't procrastinate at all. But then internally, we're like, I am doing this constantly. It's that inner critic that's like, nope, not good enough, not good enough, not good enough. And procrastination really is the voluntary, unnecessary delay of an important task, despite knowing you'll be worse off doing so. So that's future Lindsay's problem. Present Lindsay's going to sit here and just kind of like play games on her phone or watch Netflix and just be like, it's fine. And future Lindsay's like, why did I do that? So why? So there's this myth that people who procrastinate are lazy. I think many of us have taken on that story, whatever area of our life it is, but it's that discipline, right? Like discipline, showing up, getting things done. But it's really emotional self-regulation. That's what it comes down to. So we procrastinate to actually manage negative moods. So if it's difficult, unpleasant, overwhelming, boring, stressful, or aversive, if it invokes overwhelm or a fear story, we are going to put the immediate urgency on managing that negative mood. So that's more important than the actual task, even if we really know rationally that doing the task is going to make us feel better. And this also leads to procrastinatory cognitions. So that's self-doubt, low self-esteem, anxiety, or insecurity. So this is kind of like, I would say, more of the major tasks we're procrastinating on, or if those tasks start to pile up. So once again, for me, this really got into my business. When I first started my business full time, it was this overwhelm of where do I start? What do I do? There's all these different ways to pursue this, but then the self-doubt and anxiety and all of those gremlins were really what was igniting my paralysis. Sometimes you just need to turn off. Yes, I 100% agree with that, Jen. And that's why I actually do that. I make time to sit on games on my phone and watch Netflix, but I do it intentionally to be like, this is my treat. This is my gift, because I have done all of these other things. And, that could be a bath, that could be a nap, that could be just playing with your kids or going on a date or going to a comedy show. Like these are our lives. I always say it's not just to work harder all the time. Candy Crush, me too. I play Candy Crush, not gonna lie. It's fine. Sometimes your brain just needs to shut off. And it's that vicious cycle, which becomes a habit, and we're rewarded. So every time you play Candy Crush, instead of doing something else, even if you're making yourself feel bad, you're on some level getting that hit of dopamine, and you're like, I'm avoiding, and this feels good. So like I said, your future self kind of becomes a stranger. So on a neural level, we perceive our future selves as strangers rather than a part of ourselves. It's somebody else's problem. So it's this other reward for being in the present moment and being like, this is more of a reward than me thinking of the future, which is fascinating. But unfortunately, all of this leads to more stress, right? So we feel better in the moment. It's a coping mechanism, but then we're going to lead to chronic stress, low life satisfaction, the difference between answering your emails, being productive, or cleaning the house, or whatever it is, versus overwhelm, overthinking, feeling stuck. And I have absolutely been in both arenas. And sometimes it's a daily basis where I kind of hop in between the two. So another really interesting fact, there's 3 types of procrastinators. So share in the chat if you can relate, maybe you're a combination. The thrill seekers. These are the people that get that rush. Oh, I have a presentation for BNSME today. I'm going to work on it like super late into the night. I didn't do that, just an example. I have done that. And you get that adrenaline, working best under pressure. Avoiders procrastinate to avoid being judged on how they perform. I'm not going to reach out to that person because I'm actually kind of scared. What if this goes well? What if they reject me? What if I have to show up? Nervous about my performance. Indecisive is getting into that overthinking. I don't want to make the wrong choice. I don't want to make the wrong choice. So we stay in limbo. Indecisive, thrill seeker, indecisive, all of them. I'm all of them, I believe. Indecisive. And it's just bringing awareness to that. It's not about being hard on ourselves. It's knowing we're not robots and knowing that all of us are in different spots. Thrill seeker. I think that thrill seeker comes from school for me, where I waited the last minute to do like a report. My husband is indecisive. I'm a thrill seeker. But we really are. Some days you're probably the indecisive. Some days you might be the thrill seeker. It's like, ooh, I need a little bit more adrenaline today. I need that excitement. Or if you're putting off paying a bill, or you're kind of like, it's pushing the limits to things. And We already brought up overwhelm today. So why do we have overwhelm? So we have the prefrontal cortex, which helps us with all this good stuff, goals, decisions, problem solving, creative thinking. It's a great part of the brain. But the problem is when we're under too much stress, cue the pandemic, cue a promotion, cue managing a team, cue someone being sick in your family, whatever it is, the prefrontal cortex is going to shut down. The amygdala is going to take over. Your brain can only handle so much. This is where we get so hard on ourselves for being like, why am I like this? It's just our body functioning. It steps in, produces the mental paralysis and panic. So let's get into the good stuff now. Neuroplasticity is the ability of the brain to change its structure. This means it doesn't matter how long we've been doing this in our life. It doesn't matter if our parents were like this, our grandparents, our best friend. We can find so much evidence for how procrastination, avoidance, overwhelm has created things in our lives, but we have the ability to change. And just saying today, there's the possibility for me to change my mind is a very powerful strategy, which is going to enhance resilience and self-mastery. So saying, you know what, I do have a list of so many things I have to get done right now, but I have the ability to work on this. This is not my forever. So I'm going to do a brief video with Mel Robbins. It's about 3 minutes long. Just let me know in the chat if for some reason you can't hear it, but I love her. She does an amazing job at explaining why this is happening. She's very science oriented. So hold please while I shift.
You're not a procrastinator. You have a habit of procrastinating. Big difference. Because if it's a habit, I can teach you to use science to break it. So let's talk a little bit about procrastination. Who in here struggles with procrastination? Yeah, and the rest of you that aren't raising your hand are just procrastinating on doing it, aren't you? I know. You see, I always thought procrastination had to do with the thing I was procrastinating around, right? Like that procrastination has something to do with work. Believe it or not, procrastination has nothing to do with your work. Procrastination is a form of stress relief. Let me explain this. So let's say that you've got some stuff going on in your life, and heck, who doesn't have stuff going on in your life? Maybe you're fighting with your significant other. Maybe mom's or dad's health is failing and it's really, really upsetting you. Maybe you've got some financial stuff. You put too much of your savings into Bitcoin, and now that that's crashed, you're stressed out about it, right? And so you go into work, and when you get into work, you got stuff to do. You kind of walk in and you got this big stress ball that subconsciously is hanging over your head. And so you walk in and you sit down, and you know you got 13 phone calls you need to make. And you also know that you've been chickening out, you've been making easy calls, and there's a bunch of CIOs or other people that are higher level that you haven't been calling. And so as you sit down to do it, you got the stress on your shoulders, your brain it starts to go, wait a minute, well, you want me to make a call to somebody that I'm scared to make? Absolutely not. I'm so stressed out about, can we just watch some cat videos for a minute? And next thing you know, an hour's gone by. And then, of course, what do? You beat yourself up. So the only way that you can break this habit, and that's an important word for you to hear, you're not a procrastinator. You have a habit of procrastinating. Big difference. Because if it's a habit, I can teach you to use science to break it. You see, all habits have three parts. There's a trigger. And in the case of procrastination, the trigger is always stress. Then there's a pattern you repeat. And in the case of procrastination, it is to avoid doing something. And then there's a reward. You get a little stress relief. The only way to break a habit, you guys, is not to deal with the triggers. You're never going to get rid of the stress in your life, but you can 100% change your pattern of avoiding work. So next time that you're in a situation where you feel yourself hesitate, you spent way too much time checking out the highlights from last night's scores, what you're going to do is you're going to go, oh, I must be stressed out about something. Acknowledge the stress. Then go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I want you to count to yourself because I want you to interrupt the habit that's stored here, and I want you to awaken your prefrontal cortex. Then I want you to just work, just for 5 minutes. The reason why I want you to only work for 5 minutes is because your problem isn't working. It's the habit of avoiding. I just need you to start. And here's the other cool thing. We know based on research that if we can get you to start, 80% of you are going to keep going.
So share, did you get anything from that? How did that make you feel? Did you relate at all? Did it give you maybe a little bit of hope?
It's reminiscent of if anyone meditates or uses an app to meditate, it's reminiscent of that because it forces you to, if you're thinking about something, recognize it and let it go and shift.
Sure. Yep. Bringing the awareness in and not instantly seeking to change it. Just being like, oh, I'm stressed. Oh, that thought's coming up.
Yeah, that's for me, Linz. I had no idea that stress and procrastination were like so linked. I thought people procrastinated for a variety of reasons. Like I had no idea that the trigger is always stress. So to me, that was a huge aha moment because
Yeah.
I just didn't realize that.
Yeah, the brain is under stress. So I relate to that so much because I was so stressed when I started my business. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to succeed. I need to succeed. I left my job. What am I doing? Also, cue the pandemic, which happened 8 months after I started my business. And I was always in my head. I was always overthinking. I was always in stress. So of course I was going to avoid. And take it with any scenario that any of us have ever faced. Yep. Great to count back from 5. Breathing helps while you do it. Love that you mentioned cat videos. Yeah, I'll just go on TikTok and all of a sudden I'll be like, whoa, where did I go? What am I doing? Play golf. Yes, it's a great one.
I just never realized that, like, when you talk about the triggers, something else, like here I'm thinking I'm avoiding work, but there's something else behind the scenes that's making me avoid it. So that was eye-opening for sure.
Lindsay, it's Michaela. I like when she suggested just work for 5 minutes. We talked about the overwhelm of competing priorities, but I was thinking about the overwhelm of having a huge project that you don't know where to start and you're intimidated by even just getting started. So I like the just do work for 5 minutes, just commit to that and then see where you go.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. I completely relate to that because another thing is I kind of have this story of I have to work 8 hours a day, which I think many of us do, 8 or more hours. And when I started my day with that, I would not want to start. So 5 minutes. So even just setting a timer. Okay, I have a really hard email I have to answer. 5 minutes, getting you in that flow, showing you're not going to die. Or like you said, starting the huge looming project, spend 10 to 15 minutes on it and then see how you feel. And that's what I'm like, say, lowering our expectations a bit, because I think what's blocking us is saying this has to be done for hours on end. Let's see, what else did everyone say? Consistency over intensity. Yes. Baby steps. That's what I've been saying to myself all the time is, progress over perfection. I've always been someone that's avoided cleaning in my house. We could go into that. That would be a whole other presentation, but I just chant to myself. I'm like, okay, I'm going to vacuum the house today. And along the way, I'll see different things that ignite my attention. I'm like, oh, that needs to get done. That needs to get done. And instead I just chant to myself, progress over perfection. And I stick to vacuuming. And that is a big shift for me instead of just getting so overwhelmed by all of these different things. So absolutely. So trigger, pattern, reward. Okay, so that is the habit of procrastination. So Mel says, acknowledge the stress, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, interrupting that habit of procrastination. And then you're going to do one thing for 5 minutes. And then she says 80% of the time we're going to continue. What I also want to say is 5 minutes of something is a huge win. So especially if you're in a high state of stress, 5 minutes does not need to turn into 5 hours. If it does, great, but 5 minutes sending an email is a huge win. And we realize at its core, procrastination is about emotions, not productivity. So the solution doesn't involve, and these apps are great too, time management, learning new strategies for self-control. Those can be helpful depending on where we're at, but it has to do with managing our emotions in a new way. So it's about getting to know ourselves. That stress is really affecting me. Okay, how do I begin to navigate this? So here we're going to get into some solutions that are internal, not dependent on anything other than ourselves. And I think we could see this with, for example, healthy eating. The solution really is more internal. If we always, shift our diet to meet what other people want to do, we're ordering pizza, we're going to the restaurant, we're ordering Chinese, that's going to shift our outcome. So here's one of the solutions: reward yourself, make a deal with yourself. Okay, I don't want to do that looming work project. I completely recognize it's about stress. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to spend a half hour on it. I'm going to then reward myself by getting that cup of coffee. I'm going to then reward myself by allowing to scroll on social media for 5 minutes with a timer. I'll then reward myself with going on a walk, texting my best friend, whatever it is. This is going to activate the reward, the habit, and then the reward. And that's going to start making you wired to want to do the thing. I love talking about self-compassion and not saying we need to shift this today, but comforting yourself, being like, okay, I'm under stress. All right, this is not a life or death situation. The project does not need to get done today. How can I allow myself some stress reduction today? Can I comfort my body? Can I grab a healthy snack? Can I just put on some lotion, massage my hands for a little bit? Can I write a letter to myself describing the situation and just I call it head trash, the stuff that's in our head, and just kind of get it out. I also love just turning on the record function on my phone, hopping in the car, getting it all out, and then maybe just deleting it. What would you say to a friend who is facing this scenario? How would you help them along the way? Can you turn that back to yourself? Can you do a brief meditation? I have a whole presentation around stress reduction, 5 senses exercise, 5 things you see, 4 things you feel, 3 things you hear, 2 things you smell, and then maybe 1 nice thing about yourself. Getting rid of head trash. Yes, you could totally steal that. Head trash, I think, is a huge part of the overthinking process. All that head trash is swirling around, just wanting to get our attention. We continue to avoid it because we say, that's stupid. Why don't I just do the thing? Why am I feeling these things? Just getting it out for 5 to 10 minutes. All of a sudden we're clear and ready to go. Giving yourself grace. Yes. So tip, focus on doing your best instead of comparing yourself. Compare yourself to yourself yesterday. If anyone has read Atomic Habits by James Clear, I'm kind of obsessed with it recently, but I think he has a quote that's something like, if you get 1% better at something every day, by the end of the year, you're going to be 37 times better than when you started. Yes, Melody, yay. Oh, Jean, I call my mom at the end of each workday. I love it. So think about this. Think about calling clients is the thing you're procrastinating on. I'm going to seek to get 1% better at this every workday. 1% better. Maybe that means calling one client a day, whatever that means to you. By the end of the year, this habit is going to be completely transformed. Likely, you're actually going to get a ton of dopamine from it. You're going to get a huge reward response. And all of a sudden, you're going to be like, I can't believe that I ever hated doing this. But it's the process of consistency every day, even if it's the smallest change. Attach meaning to the task. Why is it even important to you? Are you doing it based on what someone else is telling you to do, or can you actually connect with it? I think about this all the time with the newest diet, the newest workout trend. Are you doing it because someone else was successful with it, or does it actually connect to you? Are you forcing yourself to run a marathon because you think that's what you're supposed to do? Or are you connecting to, I love to dance, so I'm going to be doing that, or I love yoga, or, whatever it is, I only have 5 to 10 minutes to work out every day, so I'm going to be doing this. Attach more meaning to it. I think Lindsay mentioned this, start small. Start with one minor task. Typically, we're going to see the forest. We're going to see all the things we need to do. Focus on the one tree or a branch. What can I accomplish today that just shifts me in this direction? Once you get started, you're going to find some momentum. Just had that conversation with a friend about fitness. Yes, that she needs to find what works for her, not what worked for me. 100%. I kind of think of life as just exploring and playing with energy and finding where we are on a daily basis. And also knowing that the me today is not going to look like the me a year from now. So maybe something really works for me right now, and then in a year, I get to shift. I also get to shift tomorrow. So it's recognizing the head trash and saying that's actually not true at all. It's just me telling myself something. I get to change daily depending on what works. For the thrill seekers here, here's some ways you can navigate the procrastination. Set deadlines for small steps. Can you mop the floor in 15 minutes? What can you do, just for an example, what can you clean up in 5 minutes in your house? How many emails could you answer in 30 minutes? Could you get the report that you've been putting off for a month done by the end of the day? How are those things starting to sit with you? Yes. It's okay. I'm looking for the adrenaline. I'm looking for the excitement. How do I make my life exciting?
Like real true story. If I know I have to go pick my son up at school in 20 minutes, I'll start something because it just is like, okay, you got 20 minutes to get this done. And even if it's not totally finished, I'm hyper focused in that 20 minutes because I know I have a deadline. It's weird. It's like I have to play mind games with myself.
Yeah.
And I think you also have to know that, even if you only have that 20 minutes, it's better to start it than put it off like, oh, I need 3 hours for this. I'll wait till I have 3 hours time and forget it. You'll never find it.
Mm-hmm.
100%. Yep. It's about getting to know ourselves, because these things might not work for anyone else, but for you, it was like life-changing. So it's about, oh, maybe I'll try that. And all of a sudden you see, whoa, this really worked for me. Of course, we all kind of know this, but making temptations more inconvenient. So let's say we find ourselves sitting on TikTok for an hour every day at work or something like that. Can you just delete it off your phone while you're at work? Could you sleep in your workout clothes if you know that you're trying to work out first thing in the morning, or put them next to your bed? Could you make sure every day you hang your car keys up so that you're not scrambling throughout the house? What distractions are stopping you from getting this done? So this is a whole other presentation in itself, but what are, let's say, once again, you're going to change some eating habits. What are some challenges that you know are going to come up? And how are you going to navigate those challenges when they come up? But also knowing that along the way, that's an opportunity for you to learn about the challenges. So it's not about starting something and having it be perfect, because that's self-sabotage. It's about, okay, what distractions are stopping me? What challenge did I face today? How can I face this tomorrow? Oh, procrastinating trap. I couldn't possibly focus on this until I clean up my office. I need to clean my desk, when in actuality, I really need to get back to the client that's asking me a very important question. It's one thing to set a timer to clean something and know that it's going to make you feel better, but it's another thing if you're doing this for hours on end. And I have also totally done this in avoiding my business. I have totally been like, oh, I really need to clean right now. I need to clean the whole house. Yes, Brene Brown, love her, talks about this when she starts writing a book. Another tip. Okay, if I were to do the thing, what would I do? So if I were to start the big project that's looming, what would I do first? What's the next action I would take? What would I do? Would I put my name at the top of a Microsoft Word document? Would I open up this email and start to look through some things and organize my thoughts? Motivation follows action. Get started and your motivation is going to follow. It's hard to ignite motivation and then have that motivation push you through. Don't wait to be in the mood. That is just huge to me, because if we're always waiting to be in the mood to work out or in the mood to do the thing, that's just not sustainable. Monetizing my spice rack is on my to-do list. Of course it is. Why am I not surprised at that at all? If it's really on your to-do list, stop procrastinating. I love doing this. What have I actually done? So my brain says, you did not do enough. You only worked for X number of hours. This didn't get done, etc., so on, so forth. I love making a list of actually what have I gotten done. So this, I think I even did this at the beginning of the year, or at the end of last year, where I just took a long walk and I put in my earbuds and I just decided to talk to myself about all of my accomplishments for the year. And all of a sudden I realized it changed my whole mood. It changed my whole perspective, because I was talking to myself in a way that was noticing what I had done right instead of what I had done wrong. When I'm focusing on what I've done wrong, I tend to not take any action because it's just very demoralizing. Keeping a journal, reviewing it, when down on yourself. Absolutely, Paul. Yes. So true. Often we forget about all the stuff we did do in a day. Yep. Just giving yourself the benefit of the doubt. And this is even good when you are depressed or you're just not functioning very well. I got out of bed today. I drank a big glass of water today. Noticing the smallest things can just start to get you moving and recognizing you're doing just fine. What does the blank version of me do? This is another way I started to shift my business. So what does the successful version of me do? Does she answer the email? Does she get back to that person right when they reach out to her? Stepping into this version of yourself. This can be a great way to meditate if you have 5 minutes, and just visualizing the healthier version of yourself, the joyful version of yourself. Stepping into the avatar, the strong version of me. What do they do on a daily basis? Your self-worth is not tied to your productivity. Absolutely. And we just all have bought into that idea for sure. So what does the blank version of me do today? Of course, enlisting help. And this is, of course, Brene Brown, love her so much, but the vulnerability can be really, really hard. Admitting I am struggling with this. Can you post something on social media if that's your jam? Hey, I'm going to be doing this. And then maybe that's the way you hold yourself accountable. Maybe you ask someone you really trust, hey, I'm bringing self-awareness into how I really say yes to everything. And I need to start saying no. I need to stop saying yes to this specific thing. Can you remind me of this when I want to say yes? Can you make sure I'm responding in this way? Can you make sure I do A, B, and C before I move on to this? This could even be like if you are in a space where you're with coworkers, just telling them, hey, that I have this habit of doing this. Can you just give me a sign? Having them just show, hey, you're doing this. Something that's not going to be, social posting probably wouldn't work really well for me. That would make me feel like a lot of pressure, but this is all about what works for you on what day. And this, I love this. This tip has been life-changing for me. Set a timer for 20 to 25 minutes. Focus on, let's just say email is the thing you're going to focus on. Say, I'm going to work for 20 minutes. I'm going to focus on this. I'm putting my phone away and I'm working for 20 minutes. You can then take a 5-minute break, or you can decide to rack up your breaks and then do another 20 minutes and then see how you feel. This helps me so much in just overcoming I can't sit here and do this for 8 hours. It gets me in the flow. It shows me what I can accomplish in 20 to 25 minutes. And then on a break, maybe you go for a walk, maybe you make yourself a nice lunch, maybe you call a friend, but this is going to show you I don't have to tackle the whole day at once. It's just those shorter breaks that are going to keep you more focused. Focus, momentum, and the feeling of success. So, asking, what is one small thing you can take away and start to implement into your day-to-day life? I'd love to hear what was the thing that stood out the most to you that you're going to start to implement. And we can open it up for sharing, questions, all that good stuff. Lisa says, work for 5 minutes. Love the timer idea. Yeah, that one's been life-changing. Recognizing stressors. Motivation follows action. Yep. So doing something for 5 minutes is likely going to create more action.
I like the rewarding yourself thing because I'm like, I didn't know this about me, but that's who I am. So if for me, it would be like, okay, if I get this done, I can go for a run, or I can go, out to dinner tonight with my friends, or like something I know I want to do, that would be exciting. That would help because that's just, I'm kind of motivated that way. So I think I'm going to try that a little bit more.
I love it. Don't feel bad about unwinding with my dumb games anymore. It clears my head. Yes. Seriously though, recently I've been like, this game is healthier for me than social media. It's just what I have found about myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyone else? Questions too. Is there something you're facing? And if you don't want to share here, that's okay. You can always email me.
Yeah,
Yes.
focusing on the accomplishments is nice.
Yes, the focusing on the accomplishments makes you feel so good. Oh, another thing I've been doing, which I've been sharing a lot, is just my daily habit tracker. So I don't know if you can see this, but like just showing, okay, you don't have to be perfect every single day. This is last month, I ended up working out like 25 days. And some days it was a 10-minute walk. And every day that I was able to color that in, my inner critic, if I didn't have that sheet of paper, would be like, you are failing hardcore. Like you are not doing what you're supposed to be doing. That's a lie though. I look at the piece of paper and I'm like, I am doing it. It's just, we're taught to be perfectionists and it's not real.
Yeah, I think the other thing that this brought up for me was, going back to Brené Brown, she has the SHITTY first draft. Just know that the first draft of anything, whether it's a book or for me, I do a lot of presentations. Like the first one is going to suck. It's going to be bad, but just open it up, start working on it, dump things on a page and like perfect it later. I think that's been helpful for me. And also what you mentioned with, what would I do if I knew what to do? Like
Yes.
what would the next step be? That's helpful too. Because when I don't know where to start, I'm like, okay, but if I did know, I would probably start with doing a little research or putting an agenda slide on there. That gets the juices flowing.
Yes. I have to build a presentation from scratch this afternoon. Elsie, you kicked me
Let me know.
gear.
Let me know if you want me to help. Just remember, you know what?
I don't know. You know what? It is something that it's a subject that we've never tackled before. So I'm like literally starting from the ground up. So if you know anything about researching online gambling apps, let me know.
Interesting.
Oh, no, that's huge.
Sometimes for me, Melanie, like it's finding images. Like sometimes the images get me motivated. Like I would put, some weird like picture of somebody like addicted to this gambling thing. And then that would, oh, okay. My first slide is going to be this, like, just whatever gets the juices going.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's completely off topic, but we're working with like CCCS about budgeting. We're working with the New York State Gambling Group, and then we're going to talk about make sure the app you're downloading is real and not some scam that's going to steal all your money.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So this is like really different for us as an organization. And I'm like, we're not the morality police, but people need to know that even if you go in the app store, there's fake apps.
Sure.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So yeah, thank you for kicking me into gear to get that done today.
But I love the image thing, Lindsay. That's a great suggestion because you know a lot about the topic already, probably, even if you're like, no, I don't. Some of it's common sense. So you see an image and all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go from here.
Yeah. Anyone else have questions for Lindsay or comments about today? I mean, I kind of have another question. What if someone you really care about is a chronic procrastinator, but doesn't realize they're stressed? So how do you be like, you're clearly a stress monster, and that's why you can't get anything done? Like, how do you sort of navigate that discussion?
I would honestly say, hey, you seem kind of stressed right now. Is there anything I can do to help you?
Interesting. Okay.
I would, and that approach might work differently for different people depending on the day, but hey, you seem tired. Is there anything I could do to help? Or, you seem like you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself, and just kind of showing the compassion, because I know, especially if it's like a honey to-do list or something, and this person, AKA my husband, has been putting it off. I'm like, we talked about this. And then it's kind of like, for me, if someone tells me to do something, I'm like, I'm going to do the total opposite. And I think it ignites the resistance more and more.
Yeah.
So how can you bring in some compassion and just show, oh, you seem like you're stressed today. Can I do anything to help?
Right,
and if not, that's okay. Do you want me to listen for 5 minutes? Whatever.
Yeah. But I think thinking of it like stress is the root cause and procrastination is the symptom. So stop trying to fix the symptom and like figure out what's maybe causing the stress, or how can I eliminate some of that stress, or how, I think that for me is going to be helpful. Yeah. Thank you.
Good. I'm glad, it seems like we're getting great feedback from the comments. So thank you guys so much. And of course, how you can help me is just share that you liked it, whether that's on LinkedIn or maybe with a colleague or anything. But I'm so happy that this helped. And yeah, I do one-on-one coaching as well. So if you need a session, let me know.
Yeah. And real quick before people start to leave, so we have a virtual breakfast next Wednesday. We do it once a month. It's just kind of an informal networking, get to know people, tell us a little bit about yourself. We also have our happy hour next week on the 17th at Pearl Street. We do ask that you register just so we have an idea of size, but it's going to be very informal, networking, gathering, socializing. Hope you can make it. And I think we had some questions about books.
Atomic Habits, for sure.
Yes, that's phenomenal.
What else? I'm reading a book about our subconscious. I'm listening to it. The subconscious is a whole other presentation. Lindsay, do you have any suggestions?
Oh boy, where do I start? So I'm reading Radical Candor right now by Kim Scott. That's really good. Most of my books are on Audible.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm listening, I should say. Insight by Tasha Eurek is all about self-awareness. Lindsay and I are huge proponents of that one. That's phenomenal. Fierce Conversations is also good.
Just writing all these in the chat. If you're looking to be more present in the now, the here and now, which I think we're all seeking, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. It's very good. It's more spiritual, but he really just talks about how you are not your thoughts.
Yeah.
And how do we start to just be fully present in the here and now.
Nice.
Thanks, Melanie.
Good luck on your presentation, Melanie.
I want to read more about procrastinating. So 5 minutes, 5 minutes of reading, right? Or 5 minutes of listening to Audible instead of doing something else.
Yeah.
Or in the
You can also-
shower.
You can also listen to Audible while you clean your house.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Lindsay. This was great. A lot of good feedback. And hopefully we'll see some of you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you, Lindsay.
much.
Great job.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.